Sure. So December the 6th through the 8th, there is a MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties Conference. There's going to be a bunch of different subjects and panels being discussed, but I'm asked to come down and preside over the juvenile justice panels. And I think it's important. And if you're there, please, show up, attend. The reason I say that is I've already kind of determined from what I've seen that there is probably a little bit of an effort to skew the conversation, to put it in a framework that is a little biased. And what I mean by that is Maryland passed some major juvenile justice reform legislation in 2022, and a lot of the panelists and questions are geared toward, listen to this is kind of crazy, how the laws are creating problems.
The laws are creating problems.
And let me explain. So the laws finally were to bring some modicum of justice and fairness in our juvenile justice system, which 85% of the children in the system are black in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And Maryland has for decades sent more children to adult court and jail than any other state in the country, including Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and traditionally southern and very racist states.
Wow.
And very conservative states. Maryland sends more children to adult court and jail and for longer periods of time than any other state in the country.
Wow.
Maryland also was rated as the worst state in the country prior to 2022 for violating human rights of children, such things as having, young children detained for long periods of time, and things such as that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the law does is it requires that no child under the age of 10 would ever be prosecuted for anything, no matter what the offense or alleged offense. It requires that a first-time misdemeanor, or what will be a misdemeanor committed by a child, if it's a first time, it's a misdemeanor, and it's not a gun offense, that they would be prosecuted, but incarceration would not be an option. So it would have to be some type of probation or other multitude of services, but it could not be incarceration for those offenses. And let me tell you something. Marylanders are losing their minds over this. They're acting like this law is, many are acting like, in my jurisdiction, they're acting like this law has created, is the cause of youth violence and youth crime. And as I just stated, it primarily deals with super young kids and nonviolent offenses, right? So anyone that's claiming that the law is responsible for like an uptick in carjackings, that's simply just not true, and it's ludicrous.
Wow. Man, well, basically what they're saying, look, y'all done messed up our school-to-prison pipeline. Y'all messed it up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's crazy, man. Oh, my gosh. Well, I tell you what. Continue to fight the great fight, the good fight, and do what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I commend you. Again, 20 years. And I just know this panel is needed. What you guys are doing is definitely needed here on the shore. And again, I just know your presence and what you bring is going to enlighten and help a lot of the youth in this area and adults as well. I mean, I'm sure a lot of folks don't even know, like, oh yeah, we have a African American lady who's senator who's not dressed up in politics. You know what I'm saying? But it's for the people. So just hearing you speak, it's the first time having you on the air, obviously having you here, but just hearing, your passion and knowing your history and through your dad and everything that, you're definitely for the people, and you're a huge voice that's needed, and continue to do what you're doing.
It's my pleasure, and I'm really excited that you had me, and I hope that when I come down there, maybe we can meet, or I can come back on the show or something. I would really appreciate that. I think it's important that people pay attention to politics. I know that politics is not always sexy. I know it's not always appealing, but honestly, it dictates every single aspect of our lives. And so if we don't pay attention to politics and engage in it, we're really just only hurting ourselves. Yeah,
definitely. And of course, next year we have, the presidential election, which, again, most people only pay attention to that. Speaking of politics, real quick, let the listeners know how important it is for the elections in between, particularly the local elections and the state elections. Let listeners know how important that is.
So I'll say this: it's important, and I know that, and frankly, in my experience, most people actually pay attention more to the presidential election than the local and state elections, and that's important. But when you look at what we do in the Maryland General Assembly, we make the decisions about what money and resources are coming to our schools. We make the decisions about how your tax dollars are being spent locally on a state level. We make decisions about all of the state laws that influence the criminal and civil justice system. It's really, really important to pay attention to us, too, not just the presidential election. You know, that's important, but so are the local elections, probably more significant for people's daily lives. Yeah. So that's what it's a little frustration because I get it. We're really not on the radar, you know, for the most part. But what we do matters the most to people.
Definitely, yeah. Like you said, you definitely have more immediate impact. Again, talking about education, talking about the roads and neighborhoods and you know, the zonings and all kinds of things that happens every day. You know, folks wonder like, well, how the gentrification, all things of that, you know, housing, all of that. That's, you know, local and state, and people wonder what happened to that neighborhood, what happened to this store, how did this store get here, and why they, you know, think you miss out on that, you know, city council meetings and things of that nature.